Oh my gosh. Can you believe the nerve of some people? Jake Morrison and his buddies were absolutely livid when they saw Zara Washington, a black girl, snag a spot on the Westfield High cheer squad. To them, she was an outsider crashing their precious lily-white cheerleading tradition. They figured they'd scare her off with their usual bullying tactics. Big mistake. Little did they know, Zara wasn't just any high school girl. Beneath her calm, composed exterior was a fire forged by her Navy SEAL father's tactical training. They thought she'd break like their other victims? Ha! They were so wrong, it's almost laughable. Zara was about to flip their world upside down and show these entitled jerks what happens when you mess with a soldier's daughter. The gymnasium was electric with anticipation, practically buzzing as 23 girls lined up, hearts pounding, for the final cheer team announcements. Zara stood third from the left, her hand steady, but oh, her chest was hammering. She'd poured her soul into 3 grueling days of tryouts, nailing every routine, hitting every mark, and smiling so hard her cheeks screamed for mercy. Ladies, you've all shown incredible spirit and dedication. Coach Peterson's voice rang out, her clipboard clutched like a lifeline. This year's Westfield High varsity cheer team will represent our school with pride and excellence. Zara's eyes darted around, taking in the sea of blonde ponytails and spray-tanned faces. Then she spotted the football team slinking in through the side doors, fresh off practice. Jake Morrison strutted in front, his quarterback swagger oozing even through his sweaty gear. Tyler Knox, all muscle and menace, flanked him, arms crossed tight, while Brandon Mills tagged along, desperate to fit in with the cool kids. Coach Peterson's voice cut through the tension. The following girls have earned their place on this year's squad. She read the names alphabetically, each one met with squeals and hugs. Then boom. Zara Washington. It hit her like a lightning bolt. She'd made it. Really made it. Around her, girls offered congratulations, but some had that barely hidden shock in their eyes, like, whoa her. Zara kept her face cool and professional, just like her dad taught her. But across the gym? Jake was staring daggers, his jaw so tight it could have cracked walnuts. He leaned over, whispering something to Tyler, who shook his head in disgust. Brandon just looked lost, mimicking his friend's vibes. Congratulations to our new Eagles. Coach Peterson clapped, beaming.
Team meeting tomorrow after school.
We've got a ton of work before homecoming. Can you feel the energy in that room? It was like a storm brewing. As the cheers died down, Zara grabbed her gym bag, her heart still racing, and headed for the exit. But guess who was conveniently blocking the doors? The football players, of course. Her pulse kicked up a notch. Coincidence? No way. Excuse me, she said, polite but firm, trying to slip past. Jake shifted just enough to make her squeeze by, like he was daring her to react. So you're the new addition to our cheer squad, he drawled, his voice dripping with sarcasm. That's right, Zara shot back, locking eyes with him, refusing to flinch. Tyler's voice cut in, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Interesting choice by Coach Peterson. Very progressive. Ouch. The shade. I earned my spot, just like everyone else, Zara said, her voice steady as a rock. Brandon shuffled awkwardly, staying quiet while Jake flashed a smile that was all teeth, no warmth. Oh, I'm sure you did, he said, but our fans? They've got expectations about what cheerleaders should look like. The words hung there, thick and toxic, like smoke. Nearby students slowed, sensing drama. And what exactly should they look like? Zara asked, her voice calm but with a fire simmering beneath. Jake shrugged, all casual cruelty. You know, traditional. Girls who scream eagle pride.
Blonde haïr, school spirit, the whole Barbie doll package. Can you believe the audacity?
Zara tilted her head, unfazed. Tyler stepped closer, piling on.
Girls who belong here.
Girls who get what this school's about. I understand perfectly, Zara replied, adjusting her bag strap with a cool confidence. This school's about excellence, academics, and representing our community with pride. That's exactly what I'm here to do. Jake's smile flickered, just for a second, before he doubled down. We'll see about that. Football season's a long road. Lots of games, lots of pressure. Not everyone's cut out for it. Was that a threat? Oh, you bet it was. Good thing I am, Zara said, brushing past them without another word, their stares burning holes in her back. Girl, you owned that moment. Meanwhile, the three boys watched her stride away, their faces darkening like storm clouds. Are you kidding me right now? Jake hissed, keeping his voice low for his buddies. They actually put her on the squad? Tyler spat toward a trash can, missing spectacularly. This is the kind of garbage that's ruining our school. What's next? They gonna make us kneel for the anthem too? Brandon finally piped up, his voice shaky but trying to match their vibe. Dude, what if she's one of those girls who thinks she's better than everyone? Like, all smart and stuff. Oh, Brandon, trying so hard to be one of the gang. She definitely thinks she's something special, Jake snarled, his jaw clenched tight. Did you see how she looked at us? Like we're the problem. Tyler's face twisted with disgust. I'm not cheering next to that. My dad's gonna lose it when he hears they picked some diversity hire over Ashley Martinez. Ashley's been waiting 2 years for this. It's not right, man. Jake shook his head, his voice low and venomous. Our fans don't want that representing our school. They want real Eagle girls, not some, he trailed off, but his meaning was crystal clear.
Brandon nodded like a bobeled, d'espérat tout belong.
Yeah, exactly. What are people gonna think when they see our cheerleaders? This isn't that kind of school. Oh, the nerve of these guys. She's about to find out what kind of school this really is, Tyler growled, cracking his knuckles like some wannabe tough guy. Football season's gonna be real educational for her. Jake's smile returned, cold and calculating, like a snake sizing up its prey.
Oye, real éducational.
Can you feel the menace in those words? They were plotting, and Zara was in their crosshairs. The harassment kicked off sneaky, almost subtle enough to brush off as accidents. Monday morning, Zara rolled up to her locker and, wait, what? It was slightly ajar. Her combination lock hung open, and her books were all jumbled up. Nothing stolen, just messed with. She glanced down the hall, catching Jake's eye 3 lockers away. He was chatting up some sophomore girl, but his gaze kept flicking to Zara, like he was daring her to react. Weird, she muttered, fixing her textbooks, her mind already racing. Was this their first move? By third period, the whole school was buzzing about the new cheer roster. Zara felt the stares in every hallway, heard the whispers that cut off when she passed. Some kids flashed encouraging smiles, but others? They looked at her like she was a math problem they couldn't solve. What was their deal? Hey, Zara. Madison Clark, a senior cheerleader, jogged up after English class, her ponytail bouncing. I'm so pumped you made the team. We're gonna have an epic season. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and Zara couldn't help but grin. Thanks, Madison. I'm ready to get started. But then Madison's voice softened, her eyes serious. Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't belong, okay? You earned this, just like the rest of us. Whoa, why did she even need to say that? It hit Zara like a punch. People were talking, and not all of it was good. The whispers, the stares, Madison's warning, it was all adding up, and Zara's gut told her this was just the beginning. Lunchtime brought another jab. Zara was chilling with her honor society friends when Tyler Knox swaggered by their table. His shoulder slammed into her chair, hard enough to jolt her backward. Oops, he said, not even glancing back. Sorry about that. Yeah, right. Her friend Jessica frowned, her brow furrowing. That was weird. Tyler's never that clumsy. Zara forced a shrug, but her mind was cataloging every detail. Maybe he's having an off day, she said, but inside?
She knew better.
This was no accident. The real gut punch came during 7th period study hall. Zara pulled out her phone to check the time and bam! An Instagram notification popped up. Someone had tagged her in a post, and oh, it was nasty. The image was a screenshot of the school's cheer team announcement, her name circled in angry red. The caption? Guess Westfield's going woke now.
Rip Real Eagle Pride. Hashtag not my cheerleader. Are you serious?
Her stomach churned as she scrolled through the comments, 37 likes and a slew of remarks that stung like wasps. Diversity hire much. She doesn't even look like she belongs here. There goes the neighborhood. Each word was a knife, carefully worded to dodge outright slurs but dripping with hate. Zara's hands trembled as she screenshotted everything, then blocked the account, some fake called Eagle Pride 2024. No surprise there. She shoved her phone away, her heart pounding. Who would do this? Deep down, she knew the answer, but proving it? That was the challenge. At cheer practice that afternoon, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Coach Peterson drilled them through basic routines, but Zara felt the sideways glances from some teammates. Madison and a few others were warm, welcoming her with high fives, but others? They were watching, waiting, like they expected her to crack. All right, ladies, let's run the homecoming routine one more time. Coach Peterson shouted, her whistle gleaming. Zara, you're in the back row for now, till you nail all the formations. Fair enough, Zara thought, but then Brittany Stevens, a junior with perfect blonde curls, planted herself right in front of her. During the routine, Brittany kept stepping back, just enough to throw Zara off her spacing. Sorry. Brittany whispered each time, her voice sugary sweet. Still getting used to the new formation. Oh please. By the end of practice, Zara had been stepped on twice and elbowed once during a spin, pure accidents, according to Brittany's fake apologetic smile. Can you smell the sabotage? As Zara headed to her car, she spotted the football team wrapping up practice on the nearby field. Jake was deep in a huddle with Coach Reynolds, but both kept glancing toward the cheerleaders' parking lot.
Coïncidence?
Not a chance. Her phone buzzed, a text from her dad. How was the first practice, warrior? She started typing fine, then stopped, her thumb hovering. Fine? No way. Good, she wrote instead. Learning the routines. Pick you up for dinner? Wanna hear all about it. But then she backspaced again. I'll drive myself home. See you there. She needed that drive to clear her head, to process the storm that was brewing. That night, sitting across from her dad at their kitchen table, Zara poked at her grilled chicken, her mind a whirlwind. Commander Washington, with that intense Navy SEAL stare, studied her like he could see right through her. You're quiet tonight, Zara, he said, his voice calm but probing. Just tired, she mumbled. New team, lots to learn. He set his fork down, not buying it for a second. Aha. And how are your new teammates treating you? Oh man, he was on to her. Zara hesitated. Her dad had drilled honesty into her, especially about threats, but she also knew he'd go full SEAL mode if she spilled everything. Most of them are fine, she said carefully. There's always an adjustment period, right? His eyes narrowed. What about the ones who aren't fine? Busted. What makes you think, she started, but he cut her off with a single word, Zara. His tone was patient, like he'd interrogated enemies and knew every trick. I didn't raise you to lie to me, especially about your safety. What's going on? She sighed, defeated, and pulled out her phone, showing him the Instagram post. His face darkened as he scrolled through the vile comments, his jaw tightening with each swipe. This is just the beginning, he said quietly, his voice like steel. Anonymous posts, accidents at practice, little games to mark their territory. They're testing you, Zara, seeing how you'll react.
Heure at 5, testing heure?
For what? So what do I do? She asked, desperate for guidance. Document everything, he said firmly. Screenshots, witnesses, times, dates. But don't react yet. Let them show their hand. And if it escalates, his smile was sharp, dangerous. We'll discuss your options. But for now, stay alert, stay smart. They picked the wrong girl to mess with. Zara nodded, a spark of determination igniting in her chest. As she headed upstairs to tackle homework, she didn't notice the black pickup truck parked across the street, its three shadowy figures watching her house with growing resentment. Tomorrow was coming, and with it, a fight she was only beginning to understand. Was she ready? You bet she was. Oh, can you imagine the weight on Zara Washington's shoulders as she sat at that kitchen table, picking at her grilled chicken like it was the enemy? Her heart was still raw from the day's humiliations, and there was her dad, Commander David Washington, eyeing her with that intense Navy SEAL focus that could probably see through walls. You're quiet tonight, Zara, he said, his voice calm but laced with that don't mess with me edge. Just tired, she mumbled, pushing her food around. New team, lots to learn, you know? But her dad wasn't buying it. Oh, no way. He set his fork down with a clink, leaning forward like he was about to interrogate a spy. Aha. And how are your new teammates treating you? Can you feel the tension in that moment? It was like the air itself was holding its breath.
Zara froze, her fur covering midair.
Her dad had drilled honesty into her since she could walk, but spilling everything meant unleashing his protective instincts, and whoa, those were fierce. Most of them are fine, she said cautiously, her voice barely above a whisper. There's always an adjustment period, right? But Commander Washington's eyes narrowed, zeroing in like a laser. What about the ones who aren't fine? Busted. Zara's head snapped up. What makes you think, she started, but he cut her off with one word, Zara. His voice was patient, steady, like he'd spent years prying secrets from enemy combatants. I didn't raise you to lie to me, especially about your safety. What's happening? Oh man, he wasn't letting her wiggle out of this one. She sighed, her shoulders slumping as she pulled out her phone, her hands trembling just a bit. She showed him the Instagram post, that vile screenshot with her name circled in red, the caption screaming, "Guess Westfield's going woke now. R.I.P. Real Eagle Pride. Hashtag not my cheerleader." Her dad's face darkened as he scrolled through the comments, each one a dagger, diversity hire much. She doesn't belong here. His jaw tightened, his eyes flashing with a quiet fury that made Zara's heart pound. This is just the beginning, he said softly, his voice like steel wrapped in velvet. Anonymous posts, accidents at practice, little territorial games. They're testing you, Zara, seeing how you'll break.
Testing her?
For what? Her stomach twisted at the thought. So what do I do, Dad? She asked, her voice small but desperate for answers. Document everything, he said, his tone firm, like a general issuing orders. Screenshots, witnesses, times, dates, every single detail. But don't react yet. Let them show their hand. And if it escalates, his smile was razor-thin, a glint of danger in his eyes. We'll discuss your options. But for now, stay alert, stay smart. They picked the wrong girl to intimidate. Zara nodded, a spark of resolve igniting in her chest. She headed upstairs to tackle her homework, her mind racing with her dad's words. But oh, she didn't notice the black pickup truck lurking across the street, its three shadowy figures watching her house with growing resentment. Jake Morrison was already scheming his next move, and tomorrow? It was bringing a storm she couldn't yet see. The harassment ramped up over the next 2 weeks, like a dam ready to burst. Tuesday morning, Zara swung open her gym locker and, wait, what? Her cheer shoes were gone. She'd left them there after practice, and now? Poof. Vanished. Coach Peterson, bless her, lent her an old pair, but they were 2 sizes too big, flopping around like clown shoes. That's strange, Madison said, her brow furrowing as she tied her own laces. Who would take someone's shoes? Brittany Stevens, with her perfect blonde curls, chimed in, her voice dripping with fake concern. Maybe they fell out? These old lockers are so unreliable. Oh, please. Zara stayed quiet, but her eyes caught Jake Morrison smirking at her oversized shoes during chemistry class. Coincidence? No way. Wednesday hit a new low. Can you even believe this? Zara found a banana on her car windshield, a note taped to it scrawled with, "Monkey see, monkey do." Her hands shook with rage as she crumpled the paper and tossed both into the trash, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it. Who would stoop this far? Thursday was no better. She got to her locker and gasped. Someone had scratched "Go home" into the metal door, the words jagged and cruel. She marched to Principal Martinez's office, her jaw set, and reported it. But his response? Ugh. He sighed, all heavy and patronizing. I'll have maintenance look at it, but vandalism's hard to prove without witnesses, he said. Are you sure you want to make a big deal about this? Sometimes it's better to let these things blow over.
Seriously.
Zara snapped, her voice sharp. So I should just accept someone destroying school property because of my race? Principal Martinez squirmed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else.
Now, Zara, let's no jump to conclusion about motivation.
What other motivation would there be? She shot back, her eyes blazing. He shifted uncomfortably, muttering, I'll talk to some students, see what I can find out. In the meantime, maybe keep a low profile. Keep a low profile? Was he for real? Zara stormed out, her blood boiling. That afternoon, The real message landed like a bomb. Zara was weaving through the cafeteria when Tyler Knox stuck his foot out. Bam! She stumbled, catching herself just in time. "Watch where you're going," he barked, loud enough for half the room to hear. "You tripped me," she said, standing her ground. Tyler loomed over her, all 6 feet 3 inches of him, his face twisted. "You calling me a liar?" The cafeteria went dead silent. Jake Morrison and Brandon Mills flanked him, their Letterman jackets forming a wall of intimidation. "I'm saying you need to move your foot," Zara said, her voice steady despite the heat in her cheeks. "Or what?" Jake sneered, stepping closer.
You gonna run crying to daddy?
"Oh wait, I heard he's some military guy. Must be embarrassing, having a daughter who can't handle high school." Ouch. The words stung like a slap, but Zara held her ground. "At least my father taught me how to be a decent human being," she fired back. Tyler's face went red. "You think you're better than us, walking around like you own the place?" "I think I belong here as much as anyone else," she said, her voice ringing with defiance. "No," Brandon finally spoke, his voice shaky but desperate to impress his buddies. "You really don't." The cafeteria was a sea of eyes now, phones out, recording the drama. Zara realized she was surrounded, outnumbered, with cameras capturing her every move. "We'll see about that," she said quietly, then turned and walked away, her heart hammering. Behind her, Jake's voice echoed across the silent room, "Yeah, walk away. That's what you people do best." "You people?" The phrase seared into her mind, replaying like a broken record for the rest of the day. How dare they? Friday brought the moment that changed everything. Oh, it was a game changer. It was game day, and Westfield High was buzzing with homecoming fever, the air crackling with excitement for the big matchup against their rivals. Zara had finally mastered the cheer routines, earning her a spot in the second row, and despite the harassment, she felt a thrill at the thought of performing for the crowd. She was striding toward the gym, texting her dad about pickup plans, when she noticed the puddle, a muddy 6-inch deep mess right outside the entrance. Most kids skirted around it, but Zara barely registered it, her focus on her phone. Then footsteps, fast and heavy behind her. She looked up just as Jake Morrison grabbed her left arm. "Hey, new girl, got a message for you," he snarled. Before she could react, Tyler Knox seized her right arm, his grip like iron, while Brandon Mills shuffled into place, blocking the view from the parking lot. "What are you doing?" Zara demanded, yanking against them. "Teaching you a lesson about knowing your place." Jake growled, his eyes cold. They shoved her toward the puddle, her sneakers slipping on the wet concrete. "Stop it," she yelled, loud enough to turn heads. "Oops." Tyler mocked as they gave her one final push. Zara hit the muddy water hard, her uniform skirt tearing on jagged concrete hidden below. Cold, filthy water soaked her clothes, her skin, her pride. She scrambled to stand, but the 3 boys loomed over her, smirking like they'd won a prize. "Looks like you slipped," Jake said loudly. "How clumsy."
Cheerleader speed out of the gym, drowned by the commotion.
Madison gasped, rushing forward. "Oh my God, Zara, are you okay?" "I'm fine," Zara managed, but her voice cracked, betraying her. Mud streaked her face, her arms, and her torn uniform left her feeling exposed, raw. Brittany Stevens whipped out her phone, grinning. "This is so going on Instagram. #epic fail. Don't you dare." Madison snapped, but Zara knew it was too late. By tonight, her humiliation would be viral. The football players were already strutting away, high-fiving like they'd scored a touchdown. "Nice uniform," Tyler called back, laughing. "Really brings out your eyes." Jake's cruel chuckle followed. "Maybe now you'll think twice about where you belong." Can you even imagine the sting of that moment? Zara stayed in the mud for a few seconds, not because she couldn't move, but because she needed to burn this into her memory. The cold muck seeping through her clothes, their mocking laughter, the bitter taste of shame in her mouth. Most importantly, the fierce certainty that this could never happen again. Madison helped her up, offering tissues and frantic apologies, but Zara barely heard her. Her dad's voice echoed in her mind. Sometimes you have to create your own justice when the system fails you. Tonight, she'd tell him everything, and tomorrow? The real fight was starting. Zara sat in her car in the school parking lot for 20 agonizing minutes after the game, still in her muddy, torn uniform. The Eagles had crushed it, winning 28-14, and the field house echoed with celebration. But for her? The victory was hollow, tasteless. She'd spent the game on the sidelines, drowning in a borrowed uniform that hung loose, a constant reminder of her disgrace. Her phone buzzed non-stop, texts from Madison and her Honor Society crew offering support. But others? They shared links to social media posts that twisted her gut. The video of her puddle plunge had been shared 43 times, with captions like "Diversity hire gets reality check," and "When keeping it real goes wrong." Each one was a fresh wound. Finally, she drove home, her hands gripping the wheel tight. Commander Washington was waiting in the kitchen, his coffee mug steaming. One look at her stained uniform, her defeated posture, and he set the mug down with a precision that screamed controlled rage. "What happened?" he asked, his voice low but deadly. Zara had planned to ease into it, maybe mention the smaller incidents first, but his expression, the same one he wore briefing SEAL teams before life-or-death missions, cracked her open. The words tumbled out, a flood she couldn't stop. "3 football players have been harassing me since I made the team. Jake Morrison, Tyler Knox, Brandon Mills. It started with comments about how I don't belong, then my shoes went missing, my locker was vandalized, those awful social media posts. Today, they shoved me into a mud puddle in front of half the cheer squad and tore my uniform." Her dad listened, his face growing darker with every word, a storm brewing in his silence. When she finished, the quiet stretched, heavy and tense. "Show me the social media posts," he said, his voice eerily calm. Zara handed over her phone, her hands still shaking. He scrolled through the comments, his jaw clenching tighter with each swipe. "And the school's response?" he asked. "Principal Martinez told me to keep a low profile and let it blow over," she said, her voice bitter. A dangerous spark flashed in his eyes. Did he now? Oh, you could feel the fury radiating off him. "Dad, I know what you're thinking, but what am I thinking?" he interrupted, his tone challenging. "That you want to storm the school and handle this yourself. But that'll make it worse for me. They'll say I can't fight my own battles." He studied her, a flicker of respect in his eyes.
"You're right.
"But this can't continue." "I know," she said, her voice breaking. "That's why I need you to teach me. Teach me everything, how to defend myself, how to fight back, how to make sure this never happens again." He went quiet, weighing her words like they were battle plans.
Physical confrontation est the last resort, Zara.
"Once you cross that line, they already crossed it," she cut in, her eyes blazing. "They put their hands on me today." "Fair point," he conceded, leaning back. "But there are other ways to handle bullies. Strategic ways. Ways that leave them no room to play victim." "What do you mean?" she asked, leaning forward, hungry for answers. "I mean you're David Washington's daughter," he said, a fierce pride in his voice. "You're smarter than those boys, more disciplined, and you've got something they don't." "What's that?" "Patience. And a father who spent 20 years neutralizing threats." His smile was cold, sharp as winter steel. "Tell me everything you know about them, their schedules, habits, weaknesses. We're planning this like a military operation." Zara's heart raced, a fire igniting inside her. They thought they could break her? Oh, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. Oh, can you just imagine the smug, swaggering arrogance at Jake Morrison's house that night? Across town, those 3 football players, Jake, Tyler, and Brandon, were sprawled out, basking in their cruel victory over Zara Washington like they just won the Super Bowl. "Did you see her face when she hit that water?" Brandon howled, clutching a stolen beer, his laughter bouncing off the walls. The image of Zara splashing into that muddy puddle was like a trophy to him. Priceless. Tyler chimed in, his grin wicked. The best part? Watching her try to act all tough afterward, like she wasn't totally humiliated.
Ah.
Jake, lounging in his fancy gaming chair, leaned back with a satisfied smirk, king of his little empire. That should send the message loud and clear. She doesn't belong here, and we're not gonna play nice and pretend she does. Can you believe the nerve of these guys? Brandon, still buzzing from their stunt, took another swig, his eyes hopeful. Think she'll quit the cheer team now? Tyler shook his head, scoffing. Nah, no way. Girls like her? Stubborn as hell. She'll probably double down, try to prove something. Jake's eyes glinted with malice. Then we'll just have to get more creative, won't we? Can't have her thinking she can just ignore us. Brandon's laughter faltered, a flicker of worry crossing his face. But what if she tells someone? Her parents, or whatever? Tyler snorted, rolling his eyes like it was the dumbest question ever. Tells them what, dude? That she's clumsy and fell in a puddle? We didn't do anything wrong. Just 3 guys heading to practice who happened to be nearby when she tripped, right? Oh, the delusion. Exactly. Jake agreed, his voice dripping with confidence. And even if she tries to make a stink about it, who's gonna believe her over us? My dad practically built the new gym. Tyler's dad's on the school board. We're Eagle royalty and he shrugged, his sneer saying it all. Not. Brandon nodded eagerly, desperate to keep up. Yeah, totally. Plus, Coach Reynolds loves us. Principal Martinez isn't gonna mess with the football program over some diversity cheerleader with an attitude problem. Speaking of which, Tyler said, pulling out his phone with a wicked grin, check this out. He flashed a group text thread packed with other players and their girlfriends. The video of Zara's puddle plunge was spreading like wildfire, each share laced with cruder, nastier comments. Tommy Williams says his girlfriend might quit the team if they don't fix the problem, Tyler reported, chuckling. Some of the girls are getting real uncomfortable. Can you even fathom the cruelty? Good. Jake said, his voice cold as ice. Let them squirm. Maybe they'll pressure Coach Peterson to make some roster changes. Brandon, always the follower, piped up nervously. But what if that doesn't work? Jake's expression hardened, his jaw tight. Then we escalate. Make her so miserable she has no choice but to transfer schools. Tyler leaned forward, intrigued. How far we talking, man? Jake's eyes narrowed, his voice low and dangerous. As far as it takes. This is our school, our team, our traditions. I'm not letting some outsider ruin what we've built. The room crackled with their toxic resolve. Oh, they were digging their own graves and didn't even know it. Meanwhile, back at the Washington house, the vibe was worlds apart, intense, focused like a war room. Zara and her dad, Commander David Washington, were deep in strategic planning, their voices low but charged with purpose. The key to any successful operation is intelligence gathering, her dad said, his Navy SEAL instincts in full gear. You need to know your targets better than they know themselves. What drives them? What scares them? What would crush them? Zara sat up straighter, her eyes sharp. Jake Morrison's the leader. Star quarterback, rich family, his dad owns Morrison Construction, built half the town. Vulnerabilities? He's being scouted by colleges. Football's his whole life. Good, her dad said, nodding. What about the others? Tyler Knox, his dad's on the school board. He's not as smart as Jake, but he's way more violent. Scholarship kid, I think. Football's his only way out. And Brandon Mills? Total follower, not a leader. Desperate to fit in with those two. His parents are divorced, lives with his mom. Commander Washington's eyes gleamed with approval. You've been paying attention, Zara. Now lesson 1, never strike when they expect it. Right now they're cocky, thinking they're untouchable. That's when they slip up. What kind of slip-ups? She asked, leaning in, her heart racing. The kind that leave evidence, he said, his voice firm. The kind that shows the world who they really are. He stood, pacing. But first, we need to make sure you can protect yourself if this gets physical again. Oh, the stakes were rising. Fight training. Zara asked, her eyes wide. Survival training, he corrected, his expression deadly serious. There's a difference. What happened today? That was just the start. They're gonna escalate because you didn't break. Are you ready for that, Zara? She thought back to the mud soaking her clothes, the sting of their laughter, the cameras capturing her shame. I'm ready for whatever it takes, she said, her voice fierce. Then we start tomorrow, he declared. But we're not just teaching you to fight, we're teaching you to win. Can you feel the fire in that moment? Saturday morning hit like a wake-up call, 6 a.m. sharp, and Zara was in the basement, her dad's makeshift training dojo. punching bag swung from reinforced beams, thick mats cushioned the concrete floor. It was like stepping into a warrior's lair. "Forget everything you think you know about fighting," Commander Washington said, circling her like a drill sergeant. "Movies, TV, video games? Total garbage. Real combat's about efficiency, not showboating." "What do you mean?" she asked, her muscles already tensing. "You don't waste energy on flashy moves or big gestures. Identify the threat, neutralize it, get out, 3 seconds or less." He stepped behind a punching bag, his movements swift and brutal. Throat strike to crush the windpipe. Knee to the solar plexus to drop him. Heel stomp to shatter the instep so they can't chase you. Zara watched, her brain soaking up every move like a sponge. Whoa, this was intense. "But before any of that, you observe," he said, his voice commanding. "Learn their patterns, their weaknesses, their blind spots. Sun Tzu said, the supreme excellence is to subdue the enemy without fighting." "So, I study them first?" she asked, her mind racing. "You study everything," he barked. "Where they go, when, who they talk to, what they care about. Information is power, Zara, and power is leverage." They spent the next hour drilling defensive moves, how to break a grab, create distance, strike hard despite her smaller size. Her muscles screamed, but she pushed through, sweat dripping down her face. "Your advantage isn't strength," her dad said. "It's speed, smarts, and surprise. They expect a victim, use that against them." By 8 a.m., Zara was wiped but wired, her body buzzing with new strength. He handed her a water bottle and a notebook. "Homework starts now. I want detailed intel on all 3 targets, where they park, their class routes, who they hang with. Everything." "How do I do that without being obvious?" she asked, catching her breath. His smile was sly. "You become invisible. Watch from a distance, eavesdrop, blend into the background, like a spy." "Exactly like a spy," she echoed, a grin breaking through. Oh, she was ready to play their game. Monday morning, Zara launched her reconnaissance mission like a pro. She got to school 30 minutes early, staking out a spot in the library with a perfect view of the parking lot. At 7:47 a.m., Jake's black Dodge Challenger roared in, claiming his usual spot by the gym entrance. 3 minutes later, Tyler's beat-up Ford truck rumbled up, parking 2 rows back. Brandon rolled in last, dropped off by his mom in a silver Honda Civic, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. During lunch, Zara sat with her back to the football table, but her phone's camera was sneaky, recording their chatter. Jake ran the show, Tyler threw in aggressive jabs, and Brandon? He just laughed at the wrong moments, trying too hard to belong. Between classes, she mapped their routes. Jake took the long way to dodge crowds, Tyler cut through the arts hallway where teachers rarely patrolled, and Brandon trailed whoever was closest. After 3 days, she had 15 pages of notes. Talk about dedication. "Excellent work," her dad said that evening, flipping through her notebook like it was a battle plan. "Now, what VE you learned about their vulnerabilities?" Zara leaned forward, her voice steady. "Jake's whole identity is football and his rep. He's being scouted by State University and Alabama. Tyler's family's got money troubles. I heard him fighting with his girlfriend about not affording homecoming dinner. And Brandon? He's desperate to belong somewhere." "Good," her dad said, his eyes gleaming. "What would hurt them most?" She paused, thinking hard. Jake would lose it if his college prospects tanked. Tyler needs his scholarship, or he's stuck with no college. Brandon? He'd fall apart if Jake and Tyler ditched him. And how might those prospects vanish? He pressed. "If they got in serious trouble, like arrested trouble," she said, her voice rising. He nodded, a proud smile tugging at his lips. "Or if evidence popped up of behavior colleges can't stand." "What kind of evidence?" she asked, intrigued. "Depends on what they're hiding," he said. "Everyone's got secrets, Zara. The trick is finding them." Oh, the plot was thickening. Meanwhile, Jake, Tyler, and Brandon were getting bolder, convinced Zara's stubbornness meant she was weak. They started scheming something bigger than puddles and stolen shoes. That evening at home, Zara was updating her intel files when her dad knocked on her door. "How's the recon going?" he asked, leaning against the frame. "Good. I think I've got their dynamic down. Jake's the brains, Tyler's the muscle, and Brandon's the weak link. Weak links are gold, he said. They crack first under pressure. Zara glanced up from her notebook, a flicker of worry in her eyes. Dad, what if they escalate before I'm ready to fight back? His face grew serious. Then you remember what I taught you about survival. Protect yourself first, strategy second. But based on your intel, what's their next move? She thought back to their patterns, their egos. Something bigger than the puddle. They want me gone, so they'll try to humiliate me in a way no one can ignore. Then we'd better speed things up, he said, his smile sharp as a blade. Tomorrow, we start phase 2. What's phase 2? She asked, her heart pounding. Turning their strengths into weaknesses, he said, his voice like a promise of victory. Oh, Zara was ready to flip the script, and those boys had no idea what was coming. Oh my gosh, can you feel the intensity crackling in the air at the Washington's breakfast table that Thursday morning? Commander David Washington, with his steely Navy SEAL gaze, leaned across the table, his voice low and deliberate, like he was briefing a covert mission. Phase 1 targets Jake Morrison, he declared, his words slicing through the quiet kitchen. He's the leader, Zara. Take him down, and you send a shockwave to the others. Zara's eyes widened, her spoonful of cereal frozen mid-air. How, Dad? She asked, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. Her father slid a manila folder across the table like it was a top-secret dossier, and when she opened it, holy cow! Photocopies of prescription bottles and a small plastic bag of white pills stared back at her. Where did you get these? She gasped, her voice trembling with alarm. The nurse's office has lousy security, he said, his tone so matter-of-fact it was almost chilling. These are expired anxiety meds, supposed to be trashed properly. The patient names are obscured, but the bottles still look legit. Zara's jaw dropped. You want me to plant drugs in his truck? The idea hit her like a thunderbolt, her mind reeling. I want you to create a situation where Jake Morrison faces real consequences for the first time in his pampered privileged life, her dad said, his eyes blazing. College scouts don't touch kids with drug charges, Zara. She stared at the pills, her stomach twisting. This could ruin his entire future, she whispered, the weight of it crushing her. Just like he's trying to ruin yours, her dad shot back, his voice gentle but unyielding. The difference? You didn't start this war. But what if, she started, her voice shaking, but he cut her off. Zara. His tone was soft yet firm, like a lifeline. These boys shoved you into a mud puddle, humiliated you in front of your peers. They've made it clear they won't stop until you're gone. Sometimes, the only way to stop a bully is to hit them where it hurts most. Zara's breath caught, her dad's words sinking in. She nodded slowly, her resolve hardening as she tucked the folder into her backpack, her hands steadier now. Oh, this was big, really big. Friday afternoon, Zara's heart was racing like a drum solo as she lurked in the school parking lot, crouched behind a van with a perfect view of Jake's shiny black Dodge Challenger. Most students had bolted, but football practice was still 30 minutes out. Perfect timing. Jake's truck sat smugly in the premium senior athlete spots, all alone, like it owned the place. She'd studied his routine for a week, and boy, was he predictable. He always hit the weight room before practice, leaving his truck unlocked because in his world, nobody would be stupid enough to mess with it. Ha! Big mistake, Jake. Zara moved casually, like she was just strolling to her own car 3 rows away, her eyes scanning for witnesses. Coast clear? You bet. She darted to the Challenger, her pulse thundering, and popped the passenger door open. The truck's interior reeked of pricey cologne and pure arrogance. Ugh. Zara's hands shook as she slipped the prescription bottle under the passenger seat, positioning it just right, visible if you looked, but not screaming planted. The loose pills? She scattered them in the center console, mixing them with spare change and crumpled receipts, her fingers trembling but precise. Her heart was screaming, hurry up, as she shut the door and walked away, forcing herself to look calm. Oh, what a rush. 2 hours later, during football practice, an anonymous tip hit the school's drug hotline. Someone reported suspicious activity around Jake's truck, hinting he might drive home under the influence. Guess who made that call? Not saying, but it was game on. Principal Martinez and Deputy Collins, the school resource officer, marched onto the field like they meant business. Morrison, we need to search your vehicle. Deputy Collins barked. Jake's cocky grin vanished. Poof. What? Why? He stammered, his confidence crumbling like a house of cards. Anonymous tip about drug activity. Collins said. Probably nothing, but we gotta check. Jake's teammates crowded around, whispering, as Coach Reynolds jogged over, red-faced. What's the problem here? He demanded. Just a routine search, Coach. Collins replied. Won't take long. Oh, but it didn't go down like that. It took seconds, for Collins to find the prescription bottle and the loose pills in the console. They sealed Jake's fate. Whose prescription is this? Collins asked, holding up the bottle, the obscured label glinting under the field lights. I don't know. Jake's voice cracked, pure panic. I've never seen that before in my life. You're saying someone planted drugs in your unlocked truck? Collins pressed, eyebrow raised. Yes. I mean, maybe. I don't know how they got there. Jake was unraveling, his cool guy mask gone. Principal Martinez sighed, heavy and disappointed. Jake, this is serious. These are controlled substances. I'm not using drugs. Jake pleaded, his voice desperate. Ask anyone. Test me right now. That's not the issue. Martinez said. Possession is possession, whether you use them or not. Coach Reynolds jumped in, all bluster. Hold on, Martinez. Jake's our star player. This has to be a mistake. But Martinez wasn't budging. Coach, I follow protocol. Jake, you're suspended pending investigation. Deputy Collins will handle the legal side. Jake's face drained of color, like he'd seen a ghost. Suspended. But playoffs are coming. College scouts are watching. Should have thought about that before bringing these to school. Collins said, slipping the evidence into a plastic bag. This is insane. Jake shouted. Someone's setting me up. Who would do that? Martinez asked, skeptical. Jake's eyes darted wildly. Teammates, coaches, officials, but he had no answer. I don't know. But this isn't mine. Oh, the fear in his voice was real. From the bleachers, where Zara was stretching with the cheer squad, she watched the drama unfold, her face neutral but her heart pounding. Madison leaned over, whispering, What's going on? Looks like Jake's in trouble. Zara said, her voice calm as a summer breeze. Drug trouble, from what I hear. Madison gasped. That's crazy. Jake doesn't seem like the type. You never really know people, Zara said softly, her eyes flicking to the field where Jake was being led away in handcuffs. Tyler Knox and Brandon Mills stood frozen, jaws dropped, as their leader was stuffed into a police cruiser. This is messed up. Tyler muttered, his voice low. Jake doesn't do that stuff. Maybe someone planted them. Brandon said, his voice shaky, eyes nervous. Who would do that? His gaze landed on Zara, going through cheer motions like nothing was happening. I don't know, he mumbled, but Jake's made a lot of enemies lately. Oh, was he starting to suspect? That evening, the local news blared the bombshell. Star High School quarterback arrested on drug charges. Jake's dad hired a hotshot lawyer faster than you could blink, but the damage was done. State University yanked their recruitment offer that night, and Alabama ditched him by morning. At the Washington house, Zara and her dad watched the coverage over dinner, the TV casting flickering light across their faces. Phase 1 complete. Commander Washington said quietly, a hint of pride in his voice. Zara pushed her food around, her fork scraping the plate. I should feel good about this, right? She said, her voice heavy. But I just feel empty. That's normal, Zara, her dad said gently. Justice doesn't always feel like a party. But think about this. How many kids won't get bullied because Jake Morrison finally faced consequences? She nodded, picturing all the students who might dodge the pain she'd endured. What's phase 2? She asked, her voice steadier now. Tyler Knox, he said, his smile sharp. And this time, we're gonna let him destroy himself. Oh, the plan was heating up. Jake's arrest sent Westfield High into a tailspin. By Monday morning, the halls were buzzing. Everyone knew the star quarterback was facing charges and had lost his scholarships. The football team looked like they'd been hit by a truck, and Tyler Knox? He stepped into the leadership gap with a rage that practically set the cafeteria on fire. "This is all wrong," he bellowed during lunch, his voice echoing over the chatter. "Jake doesn't do that stuff. Someone set him up." His girlfriend, Ashley, rubbed his shoulder, trying to calm him. "Maybe the charges won't stick, Ty. Maybe he'll get his scholarships back." "No way." Tyler snapped, his fist crushing his sandwich. "Colleges don't mess with drug records. Someone ruined his life, and I'm gonna find out who." Can you feel the venom in his words? Zara sat 3 tables away, nibbling her lunch, her ears tuned to every syllable. She felt Tyler's eyes scanning the room, hunting for a scapegoat, and her heart skipped. Was he onto her? That afternoon, her dad reviewed her intel on Tyler like a general prepping for battle. "Families struggling financially," he noted, flipping through her notes. "Dad's in construction, mom's a part-time secretary. Tyler needs that football scholarship, or it's community college and loans for him." "So, we hit his scholarship chances too?" Zara asked, her voice cautious. Her dad nodded, his face grim. "But Tyler's not like Jake, he's not entitled, he's desperate." "And desperate people? They're dangerous." "What do you mean?" she asked, a chill creeping up her spine. "Tyler's the type to lash out violently when cornered. We gotta tread carefully." He pulled out a small vaping device and some tiny bags, evidence. "Your recon paid off. Tyler's been selling vapes to freshmen behind the gym." Zara's eyes widened. "How did you?" "Followed him yesterday," he said. "Saw him make 3 sales, $1.50 each for devices he got online for $20. "So he's already breaking the law," she said, shocked. "Exactly," her dad said. "No need to plant anything this time, just make sure the right people see what he's doing." Zara's heart twisted. "Dad, what if this wrecks his whole future? His family needs that scholarship." Her dad's face softened, but his voice stayed firm. "Zara, this is the toughest part of any mission, wondering if you're doing the right thing. But remember what Tyler did to you. Remember his laughter when you were covered in mud." "I know, and he's selling nicotine to 14-year-olds for profit," he cut in. "Tyler made his choices long before we got here." That night, Zara wrestled with her conscience, picturing Tyler's desperate eyes, his family's struggles, but then flash. His hands grabbing her, his cruel "you people" sneer, his mocking laugh as she sat in that puddle. By Tuesday afternoon, she'd made her call. During Tyler's usual selling time behind the gym, she hid in the art building, phone camera rolling, capturing him selling vapes to 2 freshman boys, money for devices, clear as day. Wednesday morning, she anonymously sent the video to Principal Martinez's office, along with screenshots of Tyler's Venmo transactions, timestamps matching the footage. By third period chemistry, bam! Martinez and Collins yanked Tyler out of class. 20 minutes later, they were tearing through his locker, finding 12 vaping devices, nicotine pods, and $300 cash bundled with a rubber band. Tyler's shouts echoed down the hall. "This is a setup. Someone's targeting our team. Mr. Knox, we have video of you selling to minors." Martinez said firmly. "This isn't a setup, it's accountability." "You don't get it." Tyler yelled. Your family needed you to make better choices." Martinez cut him off. "You're suspended pending expulsion. Police will handle the criminal charges for selling nicotine to kids." By lunch, the school was on fire with gossip. Tyler Knox, linebacker with 3 college offers, was facing charges and expulsion. After school, Ashley cornered Zara at her locker. "Did you hear about Tyler?" "Yeah, it's all over," Zara said, keeping her cool. "He's saying someone set him up, that the football team's being targeted." Ashley's eyes narrowed, studying Zara. "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" Zara met her gaze, unflinching. "Why would I know about Tyler's illegal side hustle?" Ashley's face hardened. "It's just weird timing. Jake's arrest, now this. Maybe they're not as perfect as everyone thought." Zara said calmly. "Tyler's gonna lose everything." Ashley snapped, storming off. Her words hit Zara like a punch. She thought of Tyler's family, his desperation, the fallout. That's sad, she said quietly, but Tyler made his choices. Justice, her dad said, wasn't always sweet, sometimes it was just heavy. But one target remained, and Brandon Mills? He was already cracking. Oh, the endgame was near. Oh, can you feel the tension snapping like a live wire? Brandon Mills was at his absolute breaking point, his world crumbling faster than a sandcastle in a storm. With Jake Morrison expelled and Tyler Knox drowning in criminal charges, Brandon's nerves were shot, his hands trembling as he clutched his phone that Tuesday evening. "We need to meet," he hissed into the call, his voice shaking with a mix of fear and fury. "All three of us. I figured out who's been doing this to us." Jake's voice crackled back, bitter and raw from his house arrest. "Doing what to us, Brandon? Come on, Jake." Brandon snapped, pacing his room like a caged animal. "You really think it's just bad luck we all got busted right after we messed with that black cheerleader?" Silence hung heavy on the line, thick with suspicion. "You think Zara's behind this?" Jake finally said, his tone sharp. "I know she is." Brandon insisted, his voice rising. "Think about it. First, you get nailed for drugs right after we pushed her into that mud. Then Tyler gets caught selling vapes. Someone's been watching us, Jake, collecting dirt." "That's impossible." Jake scoffed. "She's just some high school girl." "Is she?" Brandon countered, his eyes wild. "Have you seen how she never fights back? Just takes it all with that creepy calm, like she's plotting something." Another long pause, then Jake's voice, low and dangerous. "Meet me at Tyler's in an hour. I'll sneak out, parents won't know." Oh, the stakes were skyrocketing. An hour later, the three boys huddled in Tyler's grimy garage, their usual cocky swagger replaced by a toxic cocktail of fear and rage. "This is insane." Tyler growled, slouched against a workbench, his fists clenched after Brandon spilled his theory. "You're saying some cheerleader masterminded our downfall?" "I'm saying someone did, and she's the only one with a reason." Brandon shot back, his voice gaining strength as desperation fueled him. "Think about it, Ty. Who else would want to torch our lives like this?" Jake leaned forward, his face dark as a storm cloud. "Even if you're right, what the hell are we supposed to do? I'm stuck on house arrest, you're facing charges, and Brandon, you're one step from expulsion. That's exactly why we gotta handle this." Brandon said, his confidence surging, fueled by panic. "If she's been playing us, it's time to show her what happens when you mess with the wrong crew." "What are you talking about?" Tyler asked, his eyes narrowing, intrigued. "I'm talking about ending this." Brandon said, his voice fierce. "We find her, corner her somewhere private, and get answers." "And then what?" Jake's voice was a dangerous whisper, his eyes glinting with malice. Brandon's gaze burned with spite. "Then we make damn sure she knows some fights aren't worth picking." Oh, can you feel the venom dripping from their words? Tyler nodded slowly, a cruel smile creeping across his face. "I like it.
She won't tout plaidir-ti.
Let's show her how dirty we can get. This is our shot to take back control." Brandon pressed, feeding off their rising anger. "She thinks she's so smart, thinks she can wreck our lives and just stroll away. Time to teach her actions have consequences." Jake whipped out his phone, his fingers flying. "First, we need her address. Can't do this at school with all those cameras and nosy teachers." "How do we get that?" Brandon asked, his heart racing. "Easy." Jake sneered. "School directories got everyone's addresses for emergency contacts." Tyler grabbed his laptop, smirking. "My mom still got access to the parent portal from her PTA treasurer days." 20 minutes later, bam. They had it, 1247 Maple Street, a quiet suburban neighborhood just 15 minutes from school. "Perfect," Jake said, studying the address on Google Street View, his eyes gleaming. "Normal house, no security cameras, nice and isolated." He stood, fists clenched, his voice a growl. "This ends tonight. She thinks she can ruin our lives and walk away. Time to show her what real consequences feel like." Can you believe their audacity? "What if she calls the cops?" Brandon asked, his nerve faltering, his voice cracking with sudden doubt. "She won't get the chance." Jake said coldly, his eyes hard as flint. We do this quick and clean, get answers, make our point and bounce. What if her parents wake up? Tyler wondered, a flicker of unease in his voice. Then we improvise. Jake snapped. But one way or another, this stops tonight. The three spent the next hour plotting their ambush, their desperation twisting into the dangerous logic of cornered animals. Remember, Jake said as they geared up to leave, we're not there to hurt her. Just to get the truth and make sure she knows the cost of crossing us. Right. Tyler agreed, his voice hard. Just a conversation, a real serious one. Brandon nodded, his face pale, trying to convince himself they weren't about to cross a line they'd never come back from. Oh, the dread building in that moment. Meanwhile, Zara Washington was clinging to her routine, taking her evening walks through her quiet neighborhood to stay grounded amid the chaos of the past few weeks. Her dad, Commander Washington, had encouraged it, saying, normal activities keep your mind sharp during operations. Wednesday evening, 8:30 p.m., she set out, the cool air brushing her skin as she navigated the silent suburban streets. The sun had dipped below the horizon an hour ago, leaving streetlights to cast long eerie shadows between houses. The only sounds were faint TV chatter from living rooms and the occasional hum of a car on the main road. She was 3 blocks from home, passing Riverside Park when, a car engine growled softly behind her, slowing to match her pace. Zara's training kicked in like a reflex. She didn't turn, but her eyes flicked to a parked car's window, catching the reflection of a dark pickup truck creeping along the curb. Her pulse spiked. Trouble. Her dad's voice echoed in her head, when you're followed, never let them pick the fight's location. Lose them or force it on your terms. The park was too shadowy, too secluded, no way. She stayed on the street, where orchestra lights and neighbors offered some safety, picking up her pace toward the next intersection to loop back home. Slam. The truck's doors shut behind her, heavy and deliberate. Hey Zara. Jake's voice cut through the night, unmistakable and chilling. Her heart hammered, but she kept moving, fumbling for her phone to call her dad. Don't even think about it. Tyler's voice barked from her right. He'd circled through the park, blocking her path to the intersection. Brandon emerged from behind a parked car on her left, completing the trap. They'd planned this ambush like pros, and Zara's stomach twisted. Oh, this was bad. We need to talk. Jake said, closing in from behind. And this time, Daddy's not here to save you. Zara stopped, turning to face them, keeping all three in her sights. The nearest house was 50 yards away, its porch light off, no witnesses. What do you want? She asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her veins. We want answers. Jake snarled, stepping closer, his eyes burning. We know you're behind everything that's happened to us. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, standing tall. Stop lying. Tyler's face was red with rage, his fists balled. First, Jake gets busted for drugs right after we teach you a lesson. Then I get caught selling vapes. You think we're stupid? I think you got yourselves in trouble and need a scapegoat. Zara shot back, her voice cool but firm. Brandon's voice quivered, a mix of fear and fury. You destroyed their lives. Jake lost his scholarships. Tyler's facing charges. What did we ever do to deserve this? Actions have consequences. Zara said calmly, her words cutting like a blade. Maybe you should have thought about that before you put your hands on me. The words landed like a punch, and Jake's face darkened, recognition flashing in his eyes. So you admit it, he hissed. You've been planning this whole thing. I admit that bullies eventually face justice, one way or another, she said, unflinching. Tyler stepped closer, his fists trembling. Justice. You think ruining our futures is justice for some stupid prank? Stupid prank. Zara's calm cracked, her voice rising with raw pain. You humiliated me in front of half the school. You tore my uniform. You made me feel powerless, afraid. Good. Jake snarled, his voice vicious. Maybe now you know how we feel. The difference is, you chose to be bullies. Zara fired back. I chose to fight back. Well, congrats. Tyler sneered. You won. We're all screwed. Happy now? Not yet, she said, her words a defiant challenge. Oh, the air was electric. Jake's eyes narrowed, dangerous and cold. What else do you want from us? I want you to get it through your heads that there are people you can't intimidate. Zara said, her voice fierce. People who won't be victims just because you think they should. Brandon stepped forward, his face twisted with desperation. We get it, okay? You're tough, you're smart, you beat us. Can we just call it even now? Even. Zara's voice rose, incredulous. You think this is even? 3 of you against 1 girl, cornering me in the dark like cowards. We're not cowards. Tyler roared, lunging at her, his rage boiling over. Zara was ready. Oh, was she ready? She sidestepped Tyler's charge, driving her elbow into his ribs as he stumbled past, gasping. She pivoted fast, facing Jake, who was rushing her from behind. Her dad's training took over, every move instinctive, strike fast, strike hard, keep distance. Jake grabbed for her, but she ducked under his arms, slamming her fist into his solar plexus. He doubled over, wheezing, and she swung her knee toward his face, but he twisted away just in time. Brandon lunged from the side, trying to grab her, but Zara spun, snatching his wrist and using his momentum to flip him over her hip. Bam! He hit the asphalt hard, crying out in pain, the sound echoing in the quiet street. Tyler recovered, coming at her again, slower now, cautious. He was bigger, stronger, but Zara was lightning fast and better trained. She feinted left, then struck right, her palm smashing into his nose with a sickening crack. Blood gushed as he staggered back, stunned. Jake, still winded but furious, yanked something from his pocket, a knife. Its blade gleamed under the streetlight, and Zara's heart skipped. Enough games, he gasped, his voice ragged. You want war? Let's play war. Jake, don't. Brandon yelled from the ground, his voice frantic. This is crazy. But Jake was gone, lost to desperation and rage. He lunged, the knife aiming for her midsection, and Zara's mind went razor-sharp, her dad's weapon defense lessons flooding back. She caught Jake's wrist with both hands, using his momentum to redirect the blade away from her body. With a sharp twist, she pressed his thumb joint until he screamed, the knife clattering to the pavement. Before he could recover, she drove her knee into his stomach, then snapped an uppercut that whipped his head back. Jake crumpled, semi-conscious, blood trickling from his mouth. 3 opponents down in under 30 seconds. Zara stood over them, breathing hard but unscathed, the reality crashing over her like a wave. These boys had cornered her in the dark with a knife, and she'd taken them all out. Can you even imagine the power in that moment? In the distance, sirens wailed, growing closer. Someone had called the cops. Zara's heart raced, but she stood tall, ready to face the consequences, all of them. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about justice, about showing the world that no one could break Zara Washington. Oh, the battle was far from over, but she was ready for whatever came next. Oh, can you feel the chaos erupting on that quiet suburban street? The first police cruiser screeched onto the scene in just 3 minutes, its red and blue lights slicing through the darkness like a beacon of justice. Officer Martinez stepped out, her hand steady on her weapon, her sharp eyes scanning the wild tableau. 3 teenage boys sprawled on the ground, groaning in pain, 1 girl standing tall and unshaken, and holy cow, a knife glinting menacingly on the asphalt. Nobody move, she barked, her voice cutting through the night like a whip. Hands where I can see them. Zara Washington raised her hand slowly, her heart pounding but her voice calm as a still lake. Officer, I'm Zara Washington. These 3 boys cornered me, and 1 pulled that knife. I was defending myself. Tyler Knox, sitting up with blood gushing from his broken nose, had the gall to shout, she attacked us. We were just trying to talk. With a knife. Martinez snapped, pointing at the blade near Jake Morrison's crumpled form. Can you believe their nerve? Brandon Mills, wincing as he struggled to his feet, blurted out, that's not ours. She must have planted it. Oh please, Brandon. A second cruiser roared up, followed by an ambulance, its siren wailing like a banshee. Deputy Collins, Martinez's partner, jumped into action, securing the scene while paramedics rushed to Jake, who was groggy, just starting to stir. I need to call my father. Zara said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline still surging through her. You're not calling anyone till we sort this mess out. Martinez replied, her tone firm. What happened here, Zara? They followed me from my house and cornered me, she said, standing her ground. They threatened my family earlier this week, and tonight they came to make good on it. Tyler spat blood onto the sidewalk, his face twisted with fury. That's a lie. She's been setting us up for weeks. She got Jake arrested, got me busted for selling vapes, and now she's framing us for assault. Oh, the desperation in his voice. Deputy Collins glanced up from photographing the knife, his expression grim. This matches a blade reported stolen from the Morrisons' garage last week. Jake's eyes bulged as he propped himself up against the ambulance bumper. I didn't steal anything. Someone's been planning this, he croaked, panic rising. Just then, vroom. Commander David Washington's truck roared around the corner, tires squealing. He'd been glued to his police scanner, heart lurching when he heard Zara's name in the dispatch. He leapt out, striding toward the scene with that unmistakable Navy SEAL presence, every step radiating authority. Sir, this is a crime scene. Martinez warned, her hand raised. That's my daughter, he shot back, flashing his ID. Commander David Washington, retired Navy SEAL. What's her status? She's unhurt, Martinez said, claims she was attacked by these three boys. Commander Washington's eyes swept the scene. Three bigger guys down, Zara standing calm, a knife clearly not hers, and a mix of fierce pride and raw concern flashed across his face. Zara, are you hurt? No, Dad, I'm fine, she said, her voice steady. Did you follow protocol? Yes, sir. I tried to avoid confrontation, called for help when I couldn't, and used minimum force when they cornered me. Oh, the strength in her words. Martinez's brow furrowed. Protocol? What kind of protocol? Self-defense training. Commander Washington explained, his voice calm but commanding. I've been teaching Zara basic protection skills since these boys started harassing her at school. Harassing her how? Martinez pressed. Before Zara could answer, Tyler exploded, blood dripping down his chin. This is insane. She's been ruining our lives. Jake lost his scholarships because of her. Because he brought drugs to school. Zara countered, her voice even but sharp. Drugs you planted. Tyler roared. Prove it, she challenged, unflinching. Deputy Collins stepped in, his voice firm. We're taking everyone downtown for statements. This is a tangled mess with serious allegations. My daughter won't answer questions without a lawyer. Commander Washington said, his tone ironclad. Dad, it's okay. Zara said, her eyes clear. I've got nothing to hide. Jake, wobbling to his feet with a paramedic's help, sneered, hear that? She's got nothing to hide because she planned this perfectly. Planned what, exactly? Martinez asked, her eyes narrowing. Getting revenge on us for putting her in her place at school. Jake spat, his words dangling like a confession. Commander Washington's face hardened, a storm brewing. So you admit to targeting my daughter at school? Oh, the air was thick with tension. Brandon, realizing Jake's blunder, scrambled to backtrack, his voice shaky. It wasn't like that. Just normal high school stuff. Normal. Zara's voice cut through, laced with anger for the first time, raw and powerful. Shoving me into a mud puddle and tearing my uniform in front of everyone was normal? Tyler shouted, his face red, you didn't belong on our team. You never belonged at our school. Martinez exchanged a glance with Collins, the racial undertones in Tyler's words impossible to miss. I think we need some serious conversations downtown, she said, her voice steely, about harassment, assault with a deadly weapon, and civil rights violations. Civil rights. Brandon's voice cracked, panic flooding his face. Targeting someone because of their race is a federal crime, son. Martinez said, her eyes hard. And from what I'm hearing, that's exactly what went down here. The boys exchanged horrified looks, the weight of their actions crashing over them like a tidal wave. What started as a cruel cheer squad vendetta was now spiraling into a federal hate crime investigation. Can you feel their world collapsing? Commander Washington placed a protective hand on Zara's shoulder, his voice calm but resolute. "Officer Martinez, Zara's been documenting their harassment for weeks. We have evidence of escalating threats, racial targeting. Tonight was the inevitable result. We'll need that evidence," Martinez said. "You'll have it within the hour," he promised. As the boys were loaded into separate police cars, Jake limping, Tyler clutching his nose, Brandon pale as a ghost, Zara finally let out a shaky breath. The fight was over, but the real battle for justice was just igniting. The weeks that followed flipped Zara's life upside down in ways she never could have dreamed. What began as her personal stand for dignity exploded into a national firestorm about bullying, racial harassment, and justice in American schools. 3 days after the attack, the FBI swooped in, and Agent Sarah Kim arrived at the Washington house, her badge gleaming, her demeanor dead serious. Talk about stakes. "The knife attack was just the tip of the iceberg," she told Zara and her dad in their living room, her voice crisp. "We're building a case around systematic racial harassment. This isn't just assault, it's a federal civil rights violation." Commander Washington nodded, his face grim. "What do you need from us?" "Everything," Kim said. "Every text, every social media post, every witness statement. We're crafting an airtight case to send a message." Meanwhile, the boys' families were in a frantic tailspin. Jake's dad shelled out $50,000 for Harrison Wells, the state's priciest defense attorney. Tyler's family mortgaged their house to cover legal fees. Brandon's mom, a hospital worker, picked up extra shifts to afford a public defender, her exhaustion palpable. The pressure was crushing. The media frenzy started small, a local news blip, but then boom! A Ring doorbell camera video surfaced, showing the whole confrontation. 3 big boys cornering Zara, Jake pulling a knife, and Zara taking them down like a warrior. "Teen girl fights off racist attackers," screamed headlines nationwide. Cable news looped the footage, and social media erupted, hashtags flooding with support for Zara and outrage at the boys. 2 weeks later, CNN's Anderson Cooper sat with Zara and her dad in their living room, the cameras rolling. "Zara, what was racing through your mind when those boys cornered you?" Cooper asked, leaning in. "That this was what my dad prepared me for," Zara said calmly, her voice steady. "Not just the fight, but choosing to stand up instead of being a victim." "Commander Washington, you taught your daughter to fight," Cooper said. "Any regrets?" Her dad's face was steel. "My only regret is that it was necessary. But I'd rather have a daughter who defends herself than one who suffers in silence." The interview pulled 20 million viewers, sparking fiery debates about self-defense, parenting, and systemic racism in schools. Can you imagine the impact? Back in Westfield, the town was split right down the middle. Many rallied behind Zara, hailing her courage, but others, grumbled the boys were being unfairly punished for typical teen antics. The school district was under a federal microscope. Principal Martinez was sidelined on administrative leave while investigators tore into his handling of the harassment. Coach Reynolds fired on the spot when they found he knew about the boys' behavior and did nothing. 3 months into the legal grind, plea talks heated up, the evidence overwhelming. Texts plotting the attack, social media posts dripping with racial slurs, witness accounts of months of harassment, and that damning Ring footage. Jake's lawyer, Harrison Wells, met DA Rebecca Chun in her office on a dreary rain-soaked Tuesday. "My client will plead to simple assault," Wells offered, all smooth. "No hate crime charges, 18 months, and this fades quietly." Chun laughed, cold as ice. "Your client brought a knife to attack a 16-year-old girl because of her race. We've got him on video. It's assault with a deadly weapon, conspiracy, and federal hate crimes, 4 years minimum. That's his whole future." Wells protested. He should have thought about that before terrorizing a kid. Chun snapped. "What about a public apology, some remorse?" Wells tried. "Remorse?" Chun scoffed, pulling out transcripts. Agent Kim intercepted his jail calls yesterday. He called Zara the N-word 6 times and vowed to finish the job when he's out. That sound like remorse to you? Wells' face fell. His case was toast. The drama. Tyler's and Brandon's lawyers faced similar smackdowns. Tyler's jail calls were packed with violent revenge fantasies, while Brandon, the only one showing real remorse, wrote apology letters and joined racial sensitivity counseling. As the trial loomed, Westfield High's football program was shuttered for the season. The school board scrambled to draft anti-harassment policies, and property values tanked as families eyed greener pastures to escape the scandal. Jake's family took the hardest hit. Morrison Construction lost 3 big contracts, and Jake's mom, a real estate agent, couldn't get clients to touch her after being labeled the racist boy's mother. Tyler's dad got laid off from his construction gig. His mom worked brutal diner shifts, but bankruptcy loomed. Brandon's divorced mom, slogging through hospital shifts, faced endless coworker judgment, and some relatives cut ties, ashamed of the family name. The boys were held in separate lockups to stop them from scheming together. Jake, in adult county jail for the knife charge, earned a rep for his racist rants and constant trouble. Tyler, in juvie, stayed in protective custody after brawls with inmates who'd seen the news. Brandon, also in juvie, dove into counseling, penning dozens of apology letters, hoping to sway his sentencing. Oh, the fallout was relentless, and Zara's fight was just beginning. Oh, can you imagine the whirlwind that Zara Washington's life had become 6 months after that fateful night? The media frenzy was absolutely relentless. Documentary deals, book offers, speaking gigs pouring in like a tidal wave. Everyone wanted a piece of her story, but Zara? She turned it all down with a fierce focus that would make anyone proud. Instead of basking in the spotlight, she poured her heart into her grades and her new role as student body president, a title she snatched in a landslide election that left Westfield High cheering her name. Can you believe the strength it took to stay grounded amid all that chaos? By February, the plea deals were locked in, and oh, they were heavy. Jake Morrison, the ringleader, pleaded guilty to every charge, facing a recommended 4 years behind bars. Tyler Knox, his brutal enforcer, accepted 3 years for his role. And Brandon Mills, showing real remorse and cooperating fully, got 18 months in juvenile detention, a lighter sentence, but still a gut punch. The courtroom showdown was looming, and the whole town was holding its breath. On a frigid March morning, the courthouse was a circus. Protesters swarmed the steps, some waving signs for Zara, demanding justice, others griping that the boys were being unfairly crucified. Media trucks clogged the streets for blocks, cameras flashing like lightning. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation as Judge Patricia Reynolds, a 30-year veteran of the bench, flipped through the case file one last time, her eyes sharp behind her glasses. This Westfield High hate crime case? It was the biggest of her career, outshining even white-collar fraud and murder trials. We're here for the sentencing of defendants Morrison, Knox, and Mills, who've pleaded guilty to assault, conspiracy, and federal hate crime violations, she announced, her voice booming through the packed courtroom. Can you feel the weight of that moment? Zara sat beside Rebecca Chin, poised in a simple blue dress her mom had picked out, its soft hue a quiet contrast to the storm inside her. Behind her, Commander David Washington sat ramrod straight, his Navy SEAL bearing unshakable, flanked by supporters from school and the community. Madison Clark and a gaggle of cheerleaders had driven hours to stand by her. Across the aisle, the 3 boys slumped beside their lawyers, their families a heartbreaking tableau in the rows behind. Jake's parents looked like they'd aged a decade, worn down by stress and public shame. Tyler's family seemed drained, their faces etched with financial and emotional exhaustion. Brandon's mom wept softly, her son already lost to the justice system's grip. D.A. Chin rose, her presence commanding as she delivered her final arguments. Your Honor, this isn't just teenage bullying gone awry, she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. These defendants waged a systematic campaign of racial harassment that ended in a premeditated assault with a deadly weapon. The evidence shows months of planning, coordination, and escalating violence fueled by pure hatred. She snapped open a thick folder, papers rustling like a battle cry. Text messages between the defendants call Miss Washington that N-word cheerleader and plot ways to get rid of her. Social media posts egged on others to harass her. Witness testimony confirms they made her life a living hell for months before that final attack. Jake's attorney, Harrison Wells, leapt up, trying to salvage his client's sinking ship. Your Honor, my clients were confused, angry teens who made bad choices, he pleaded, all smooth charm. They've already lost their college dreams, their futures, their good names. They've learned their lesson through consequences. Have they? Chen shot back, brandishing transcripts like a sword. Just yesterday, We intercepted jailhouse calls where Mr. Morrison uses racial slurs against Zara 6 times and vows to finish what we started when he's free. Mr. Knox has spewed similar revenge threats. The courtroom buzzed with gasps and murmurs of disgust. Jake's dad sagged in his seat, his face crumpling as he realized his son had just buried himself deeper. Oh, the drama was unbearable. Judge Reynolds glared at the documents, her displeasure radiating like a storm cloud. "Mr. Morrison, stand up," she commanded, her voice slicing through the tension. Jake rose shakily, his orange jumpsuit a jarring contrast to the flashy varsity jacket he once strutted in. "In 30 years on this bench, I've seen countless young people stumble and grow," she said, her tone grave. "But what you and your co-defendants did goes far beyond a teenage mistake. You targeted a fellow student because of her race, escalated that harassment over months, and attacked her with a deadly weapon while threatening her family." Wells tried to jump in. "Your Honor, if I may, you may not." Reynolds snapped, her voice like steel. "Mr. Morrison, you were the ringleader. You planned the attack, brought the knife, led the assault. Your recent calls show no remorse, only more racial hatred and violent threats." Jake's legs wobbled, his voice a desperate whisper. "Please, Your Honor, I made a mistake." "Multiple mistakes," she thundered, consulting her sentencing guidelines. "Over months, with calculated malice and clear racial animus. I sentence you to 4 years in state prison, 3 years supervised probation with mandatory racial sensitivity counseling. You're permanently banned from Westfield school properties and prohibited from contacting the victim or her family." Jake's mom burst into wrenching sobs, her cries echoing. His dad sat stone-faced, staring at the wreckage of his son's future and their family's name. Oh, the heartbreak. "Mr. Knox, stand up," Reynolds ordered. Tyler rose, his hands trembling, his public defender looking overwhelmed by the federal spotlight. "You were a key player in this conspiracy," she said, her eyes boring into him. "Your communications show you pushed for violence, used racial slurs repeatedly, and joined the assault. 3 years in state prison, 2 years probation, with the same counseling and contact restrictions." Tyler's knees buckled, his face pale. His girlfriend, Ashley, who'd stuck by him early on, had dumped him months ago when his vile jailhouse rants went public. Talk about karma. "Mr. Mills." Reynolds cold. Brandon could barely stand, his face ghostly, tears streaking his cheeks. Unlike his friends, he'd spent months drowning in remorse, writing apology letters, diving into counseling, and cooperating fully. "You were the follower, but you willingly joined in racial harassment and assault," Reynolds said. "Yet, your cooperation, counseling, and genuine remorse set you apart. 18 months in juvenile detention, 2 years probation, and 500 hours of community service with racial justice organizations." Brandon's mom sobbed with relief. 18 months was brutal, but not the years-long nightmare she'd feared. "Can you feel the bittersweet weight of that moment?" Reynolds turned to the packed courtroom, her voice resonant. "Let this case be a warning to every parent, school administrator, and young person watching. Hate crimes will be prosecuted to the fullest in my jurisdiction. These defendants' futures weren't destroyed by their victims' response, but by their own choice to embrace racially motivated violence." She fixed her gaze on Zara. "Miss Washington, would you like to make a victim impact statement?" Zara rose slowly, the weight of every eye in the room pressing on her, but oh, she stood tall. The girl who'd been shoved into a mud puddle 8 months ago was gone, replaced by a young woman forged in fire. "I didn't want any of this," she began, her voice clear, ringing to every corner of the silent courtroom. "I just wanted to make the cheer team, ace my classes, live a normal high school life. These defendants stole that from me when they decided I didn't belong in their world because of my skin." She turned to face the boys, her eyes blazing with unyielding strength. "You thought you could scare me into vanishing. You thought your threats and violence would make me quit, transfer schools. Instead, you taught me that standing up to bullies is the only way to stop them from hurting others." Her voice grew stronger, a beacon of defiance. "I hope prison teaches you what empathy and decency couldn't. I hope you learn every person deserves respect, no matter their race. And when you get out, I hope you spend your lives making up for the hate you've spread." Jake's eyes burned with unrepentant rage, Tyler stared at the floor, ashamed, and Brandon looked shattered, his remorse raw and real. "This court is adjourned." Reynolds' gavel fell bam, and the room erupted in controlled chaos. Reporters surged for the exits. The defendants were led away in handcuffs, their families trailing in grief, anger, and despair. Oh, the emotions swirling. Outside, Zara and her dad stood on the courthouse steps, cameras flashing like a thunderstorm, reporters shouting questions. "Miss Washington, how do you feel about the sentences?" a CNN correspondent called. "I feel like justice was served," Zara said, her voice confident, unshakable. "These boys' learned actions have consequences, no matter who your family is, how much money you have, or what you think you're owed." "What's your message for other students facing harassment?" another yelled. "Document everything," she urged. "Tell trusted adults. And never forget, you have the right to defend yourself and demand justice." Commander Washington wrapped an arm around her, his voice thick with pride. "I'm so proud of her for standing up for herself and for every kid who'll never face what she did because of her courage." As they navigated the crowd of supporters and media to their car, Zara felt a year-long weight lifting from her shoulders. The fight was over, justice had won. But the real victory? It wasn't just the sentences or courtroom vindication, it was knowing she'd faced hatred and violence with courage, smarts, and grit, emerging victorious. Can you feel her triumph? 1 year later, Zara stood at a podium in Westfield High's sparkling new auditorium, her voice carrying effortlessly as she addressed a packed assembly on anti-bullying and racial justice. The irony wasn't lost on her, speaking boldly in the very school where 3 boys once tried to crush her spirit for her skin color. "A year ago, I thought my biggest hurdle would be nailing cheer routines," she began, her words gripping the silent crowd. "I never dreamed I'd have to fight for my right to exist here without harassment." Every eye was locked on her, the front row filled with Principal Williams, Martinez's replacement, and new coaches and school board members, all committed to a safer school. The old guard that ignored her torment? Gone. "But I learned something huge," Zara continued, her voice rising with passion. "Bullies only have the power you give them. Stand up, demand justice, and they crumble." Oh, the power in her words. Afterward, Madison Clark, now cheer captain, caught Zara in the hallway, her face beaming. "That was incredible, Zara. Did you see how quiet it got when you mentioned the knife?" "They needed to hear it," Zara said, her eyes fierce. "Some still think what happened was just boys being boys." "Not anymore," Madison said. "Not after Jake's latest news stunt." Jake Morrison's image had imploded. Last week's headline screamed of his prison brawl with a black inmate, earning new charges and stretching his sentence to 7 years. The Golden quarterback was now a career criminal, branded a white supremacist. Talk about a fall. "Heard anything about Tyler?" Madison asked. "He's writing letters," Zara said, apologizing, begging forgiveness. "Dad thinks he might be changing." Tyler Knox, after a rough start in prison, beaten by inmates who knew his story, had sought protective custody and joined educational programs. His letters to Zara, unanswered but read, showed real remorse, a dawning awareness of his actions' weight. "And Brandon?" Madison pressed. "He's out next month," Zara said. "His mom says he's transferring schools, starting fresh." Brandon had served his 18 months, completed community service with racial justice groups, and seemed genuinely transformed, though Zara stayed wary. Trust had to be earned. Oh, the paths they'd all taken. That evening, Zara found her dad in their basement gym, sweat gleaming as he powered through his nightly workout. The space had evolved. New gear, photos of Zara's triumphs, and newspaper clippings of their victory lined the walls like a shrine. "How'd the assembly go?" he asked, pausing his reps. "Good," she said, grinning. "Kids are listening." Some shared their own harassment stories after. His smile radiated pride. "You're quite the speaker, Zara. Harvard's lucky to have you." Zara had nabbed a full scholarship to Harvard, her essay on overcoming racial harassment wowing the admissions team. 12 other universities had also begged for her, drawn to the girl who'd become a symbol of resilience. "I keep thinking about what you said that first night," she mused, "about creating justice when the system fails. Any regrets, Dad? Any at all?" She weighed the question, the past year a roller coaster, death threats from hate groups, endless media glare, the stress of court battles. But it also brought unexpected gifts, bonds with students inspired by her courage, respect from adults awed by her grace, and the certainty she'd sparked real change. "No," she said firmly. "I regret it was necessary, but not fighting back." Her phone buzzed, a text from her guidance counselor. "News crew here, wants interview on new anti-harassment policies. Interested?" Another interview. She glanced at her dad. "You don't have to keep doing them," he said. "You've already changed Westfield." "I know," she said, her eyes bright. "But maybe one more kid will see it and realize they don't have to take abuse." Oh, Zara Washington wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, rewriting the future one fearless step at a time. Oh, can you feel the incredible transformation sweeping through Westfield High? The changes were nothing short of revolutionary, like a phoenix rising from the ashes of a dark past. The new administration rolled out zero-tolerance harassment policies with a fierceness that sent a clear message: no more nonsense. They mandated diversity training for every single staff member, ensuring everyone was on board with creating a safe, inclusive space. And get this, they set up anonymous reporting systems so students could speak out without fear. The football program? Completely rebuilt from the ground up with coaches who cared more about character than racking up wins. The cheerleading squad, oh, they were shining bright, actively recruiting from every corner of the school, embracing all demographics, and pouring their energy into uplifting the entire student body. Can you imagine the vibrant, welcoming vibe that must have taken over the halls? But the real game changer? The school district brought in Dr. Angela Foster, a nationally celebrated expert on racial equity and education, as the Director of Student Safety and Inclusion. Talk about a powerhouse. Her first move was pure genius, launching peer mediation programs and restorative justice circles to tackle conflicts before they could spiral out of control. These initiatives were like a lifeline, giving kids a chance to resolve issues with understanding, not anger. The school was becoming a beacon of hope, and Zara Washington's courage was the spark that lit it all. 2 weeks later, Zara got the shock of her life when her doorbell rang. Standing nervously on her front porch was none other than Brandon Mills, looking like a completely different person, thinner, older somehow, with eyes brimming with genuine remorse instead of the frantic fear she'd seen at the trial. He wasn't alone. His exhausted mom and a kind-faced social worker stood beside him, their presence adding weight to the moment. "Zara, I don't expect you to forgive me." Brandon started, his voice trembling just a bit, like he was terrified of her reaction. "I just need you to know I get it now, how wrong we were, how much we hurt you." Zara studied him, her heart guarded but curious. Gone was the arrogance, the hatred that once fueled his role in her torment. Prison and counseling had reshaped him, but could she trust this change? "What do you want from me, Brandon?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with caution, her eyes searching his for any hint of deceit. "Nothing," he said quickly, his hands raised like he was surrendering. "I just want to own what I did and say I'm sorry, really truly sorry." His mom stepped forward, her eyes red and weary, her voice thick with emotion.
"I'm sorry too, Zara."
"I failed to raise my son with the values he needed. I'm so ashamed of what he did to you." The social worker nodded, her expression warm but professional. "Brandon's completed extensive counseling and community service. He's determined to spend his life making sure no other student endures what you did. I'm transferring to Lincoln High." Brandon added, his voice earnest, almost pleading. "Starting fresh, but I had to make sure you knew. I understand now what we did was evil, and you had every right to fight back." Zara stood there, looking at this broken boy who'd once helped rip her uniform and humiliate her in front of her peers. Did she feel glee at his downfall? No way. Just a weary acknowledgement that justice sometimes looked like this, messy, raw, but real. "I hope you've really learned, Brandon," she said, her voice firm but not cruel. "I hope you spend your whole life making sure no kid ever faces what I did." "I will," he promised, his eyes glistening. "I swear." As they walked away, Zara leaned against the doorframe, a strange sense of closure washing over her. Not forgiveness, that was a long road if it ever came, but a quiet recognition that even those who'd done terrible things could change. Watching Brandon disappear down her street, she reflected on her journey. A year ago, she was a girl desperate to fit into a hostile world. Now, she was a young woman who'd proven justice was possible, even when it felt like a pipe dream. She'd carved out her place and made it safer for everyone who'd follow. The battle was won, and Zara was ready for whatever lay ahead. Oh, what a victory! 2 months later, Zara stood in her bedroom, her heart buzzing with excitement as she packed for her freshman year at Harvard. Her acceptance letter, framed proudly on her desk, gleamed beside newspaper clippings and a photo of her beaming with Madison and the cheer squad at their last homecoming game, a moment of pure joy. The room felt like a time capsule, both familiar and distant, a witness to her metamorphosis from a scared teen to a national symbol of resilience. Her dad, Commander David Washington, knocked on the doorframe, leaning against it with a rare, tender smile that warmed her heart. "Need help with those boxes, warrior?" he asked, his voice soft but proud. "I've got it, Dad," she said, taping up a box labeled books with a grin. "But you can haul them to the car if you're feeling useful." He chuckled, stepping inside, his eyes twinkling with affection. "You know, I always knew you were strong," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But watching you this past year, I'm not sure I've ever been prouder." Zara paused, meeting his gaze, her heart swelling. "I couldn't have done it without you, Dad. Those early basement training sessions, the strategy talks, your pep talks, you gave me the tools to fight back. You had the courage to use them," he said, his voice firm. "That's what counts." "Oh, can you feel the love in that moment?" Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, a notification from the Westfield High Student Council. The anti-bullying program she'd helped design had just scored national recognition FR.
OM, the Department of Education.
Zara's face lit up as she forwarded the news to Madison, now leading the cheer squad's outreach with unstoppable energy. "Looks like your legacy's taking root," her dad said, glancing at her screen with a proud nod. "It's not just mine," Zara said, her voice warm. "It's everyone who stood up, Madison, the cheerleaders, the kids who shared their stories after my assembly.
We are changing things together."
He nodded, his expression thoughtful, a quiet respect in his eyes. "And the boys? Any updates?" Zara sat on her bed's edge, pondering. "Jake's still making headlines for all the wrong reasons," she said, shaking her head. "Last I heard, he's facing another year tacked onto his sentence for starting a prison fight. Tyler's been quieter, but his latest letter says he's in a GED program, wants to study sociology when he's out. Says he's trying to figure out why he went so wrong." "And Brandon?" her dad asked, raising an eyebrow. "He started at Lincoln High last week," she said. "His mom emailed me, he's joined their peer mediation group, keeping his head down, trying to live up to his promise." Commander Washington crossed his arms, a faint approval in his gaze. "Sounds like justice is still playing out, not always pretty but real."
"Yeah,"
Zara agreed, her voice soft but sure. "Real." As they hauled her boxes to the car, Zara took one last look at her neighborhood, the quiet streets where she'd faced her attackers, the park where she'd proven her strength, the house where she'd plotted her victory. She was leaving it behind, but those lessons? They were hers forever. At Harvard, she'd dive into political science, dreaming of advocating for education reform and racial equity. The world was so much bigger than Westfield High, and Zara Washington was ready to conquer it, one fearless fight at a time. Oh, what a future awaited her. Zara's story didn't stop with the courtroom or her assembly. It was alive, pulsing through the policies she'd helped shape, the students she'd inspired, and the nationwide conversations she'd ignited.
Her courage sans choquer far beyond Little Westfield, touching hearts and changing minds.
At Westfield High, Zara was a legend, not just for her physical triumph, but for refusing to let hatred define her. Under Madison's leadership, the cheer squad became a shining model of inclusivity, snagging state awards for community engagement. The football program, reborn with an ethical focus, churned out players who valued teamwork over ego. For the wider community, Zara's case was a thunderous wake-up call. Parents flooded school board meetings, demanding accountability like never before. Teachers got trained to spot and stop microaggressions, sharpening their skills to protect every kid. And students, inspired by Zara's boldness, started calling out bullying, knowing their voices mattered. Can you see the ripple effects of her bravery? As for Zara herself, she carried her scars with a grace that left people in awe. She knew the world wasn't perfect, hatred still lurked, justice wasn't a given, but she also knew her power to fight for change and the grit to see it through. A month later, standing on Harvard's campus, surrounded by new friends and endless possibilities, Zara looked to the future with a fire in her eyes. The girl who'd been pushed into a mud puddle was long gone, replaced by a warrior ready to reshape the world. In quiet moments between classes, she'd hear her dad's words echo, "They picked the wrong girl to intimidate." She'd smile, her heart full, knowing he was so right. Oh, Zara Washington wasn't just a survivor. She was a force, and her story was far from over.